O 600. What's the O stand for? Oh my God, it's early.
Wake me up, wake me up, wake me up, wake up.
Rob Thompson.
Ginobili the other way in transition to the top with a left-hand slam.
I want some nasty.
Rudy J.
Cowboys win. How else would you settle this game?
How about them Cowboys?
Begin each day as if it were on purpose.
I wake up in the morning, I piss excellent.
R&R in the morning on 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you.
Good morning, good morning.
That's Rudy J. I'm Rob Thompson. This is R in the morning. Welcome to 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock's on Mondays mean just one thing. That is Todd Archer, national NFL reporter for ESPN, a local speaker right here on San Antonio Sports Star, joining us on a Buyer's Barricade guest lines. Morning, Todd. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good, Todd. Good to hear from you.
Let's hit the streets running. Self-inflicted wounds all night long. They shot themselves in the foot and couldn't get over it. What was your estimation of the evening?
Everything you just said, right? And I look at this, and it's funny. I just was scrolling through Twitter or X or whatever we want to call it
Right.
for some reason, and then saw everybody was wanting to blame Dak for this one, but I didn't know the defensive line was out 3 starters. The defensive line was, or the defense. To me, this was about the defense. Yes, the offense needs to play better. The red zone has to be much better than what it's been. But when you're playing a Cardinals offense that is limited with Josh Dobbs at quarterback, you need to dominate. You need to do what you did in the weeks 1 and 2. If you want to compare yourselves to the 85 Bears, to the 01 Ravens, to the guys that they've brought up, then this is a game that you need to win, especially when you know your offense is down Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Tyler Biadasz. And they give up 222 rushing yards, 180 on the ground. Dobbs isn't really pressured much of the game. They allow a boatload of big plays. To me, they lose this game because the defense wasn't good enough.
Well, sticking with the red zone, Todd, you've covered the NFL for a long time. Is that something that can be fixed within a season?
Yeah, it can be. And you get the standard answers, well, we just need to execute better.
Right.
Yeah, probably so, right? But you need to do some different things. Relying on fade balls to
Right.
CD Lamb and to Michael Gallup, not the way you want to live down there. And I think what the Cardinals did, Mike McCarthy was saying after the game, was they just played coverage, flooded the zones, didn't give a lot of openings, and that's why they tried to run it there late in the game to run it into the end zone. They weren't able to get it done. To me, though, they were so good last year in the red zone. I think it was 40 touchdowns and 56 red zone opportunities. And their last 2 games are now 3 for 11.
Wow.
So, they need to, as McCarthy said, look at everything they're doing and figure it out, because it has to be more than just execution. You have to go and find some different plans. But down there, your guys need to win. Your receivers do need to win on routes, not just fade routes, every kind of route. And maybe this is where they missed the 3 offensive linemen, because it is a condensed area. Things are going to be tighter, and they weren't able to either pass protect well enough or they weren't able to run block well enough. And if you had those 3 guys, maybe things are different. But the red zone is obviously the highest concern that this team has offensively in my mind. And they need to fix it and fix it right away. And, oh, by the way, you're facing Bill Belichick this week, a guy who's pretty good at taking away things of opposing offenses.
The Cowboys didn't allow a rush for more than 18 yards in the first 2 games, and suddenly we saw this happen. Film is adding up. What do you see as the answer to their inability to stop the run, especially right up the gut?
Yeah, to stay in your gaps, right? Make sure you're playing the way you're supposed to play. Don't try and run around and make some plays. Go to the first run of the game by Josh Dobbs, 44 yards. Micah, What are you doing? He cuts inside, and he just leaves the whole gaping hole for the guy to come outside and have the biggest run, which, by the way, was followed up by a 45-yard run by Rondale Moore. The second half was better. Obviously, it was just, 40-some-odd yards rushing. I don't know if that's because the game was the way the game was going and it didn't matter as much. But it did look like they used Hankins and Mozzie Smith a little bit more. Maybe that's an answer. But, look, who's coming to AT&T this weekend? Ezekiel Elliott, Ramondre Stevenson. You think Zeke's gonna be a little fired up to play this game?
Absolutely.
And you know the Patriots are gonna want to run it on them, or they know how that you attack the Cowboys defense is with their run.
Why can't they figure out, or Dan Quinn, is it Micah, is it the defensive line coach? When teams run at Micah, they have yet to figure that out. Like it's been out there for a couple years now. Like that's the way you attack him. How do you fix that? And when will they fix that?
You got to play your techniques and be in the right spot and don't. I don't want to say freelance because I think I'm probably jumping the gun there a little bit on that. And look, they were so good in the first two games. They allowed more yards in the first half than they did in the first two games on the ground. But I do think there are times where guys can play hero ball and get themselves in trouble. And Mike has been good against the run here in these first two games. Yesterday was not one of those games, especially that first half. But that was on everybody. There has to be. They call it it's a privilege to pass rush, and they were able to do that in the first two games because they put their other teams in passing situations. The Cardinals, again with Josh Dobbs, were able to control the line, control the game, and some of it is the Cowboys. Their base defense is essentially a 3 safety look, but they have to figure something out. I don't think it's just throwing away the whole game plan and over this one thing, but just make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. I guess it's still another Belichick line, right? Do your job.
Right.
Don't try and do everybody's job. Do your job.
That is Todd Archer, ESPN National NFL writer, Dallas Cowboy insider, and our guy on Mondays, every Monday at 7. The turnovers, the penalties. This is the third time I'm reading in your article, third time the Cowboys have a game at least 15 penalties, and they've lost all 3. Oh, it seems like when this happens to McCarthy's team, especially with the Cowboys, it's just this waterfall. Everything it just kept coming. And I know a lot of it had to do with offensive line guys, backups, and some timing, but still the discipline question has to be brought up again. I didn't think we would be.
Red pre-snap penalties too, right? Terrence Steele, 2 false start penalties. So stuff you can control the defense. They had 4 or 5 penalties themselves. Special teams had a couple of penalties. Game wiping out a Kevontae Turpin penalty. What I don't like is when you hear after the game when McCarthy says, we told the guys about this crew and they're going to call some things you might not see in other games. And then you have the players all of a sudden say, we got to play the Cardinals and the refs. You can't have that mentality. You just play cleaner and don't give the excuse and don't say, well, we're not making excuses, but the refs got us. Was it a pass interference on Michael Gallup in the end zone? Probably so.
Yes, it was.
That they picked up the flag. Now, let's flip the jerseys. And if that was Stephon Gilmore on a Cardinals receiver, everybody who said, great job picking up that call, you got to let the guys play in the end zone. So all this stuff largely evens out. I do think there's an element of the Cowboys do get noticed more. But again, I mentioned the the running game and the Cardinals rush in the first half. Cowboys had 11 penalties for 73 yards in the first game, 13 for 107 yesterday. I mean, that's just you can't win that way, and especially when you're down so many guys, you can't put yourselves in holes time and time and time again.
I don't know how it looked to you because you're actually in the stadium, Todd, but on TV it kept going to CD. He was a little, frustrated, pouty. It wasn't one of his best performances. Then you equal that, he doesn't really go for the catch because he thinks he's going to get the pass interference call. It wasn't one of CD's better games yesterday.
I'd agree with that. I mean, he had 4 catches, 53 yards. Some of the red zone stuff that little option deal that they did, that was kind of a strange play.
Strange call.
But yeah, he didn't. You saw Michael Gallup look like Michael Gallup of old, but then you saw some of the opportunities taken away from CD. I don't know if that was they're telling us that the Cardinals were playing heavy coverage, that they were doing things to take away Lamb. I'm going to just venture a guess that the Giants and Jets did the same things to try and take CD away, and they didn't. So there's got to be ways where you can work around that, where you just can't, he's doubled, we can't get him the ball. I think he was frustrated. Talking to him after the game, you can notice the frustration, maybe not for himself personally, but the fact that they lost a game that they thought was incredibly winnable. But again, they're facing Bill Belichick this week. What do we know that he does? He takes away their number one option and what they want to do. Now, last time CD played these guys a couple years ago, went off at a 100-yard game and had the game-winning touchdown in overtime up there in Foxborough. We'll see, but he's your number one guy. But he definitely more than he did on that fade ball. To even make it look like more of a penalty.
You know, you brought up something, Todd. Something about this. The receivers do need to get themselves open, and it felt like they were covered pretty much all night. We saw Dak dancing around a lot last night, and he even mentioned postgame, maybe I should have run a couple times more and used his feet, but it did feel like the receivers were covered.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of separation at certain times. I'm thinking of the other red zone trip where they turned it over on downs, and he's running for his life. And I went back and looked at that replay. There was no one open at the snap, and there was no one open as he scrambled. And they do these scramble drills every day in practice where so they get the quarterback and the receivers on the same page to understand where they should go and where they should be. No one was even open on that play. So Dak, maybe he could have tried to run by the guy that was coming at him, but why put yourself in harm at that point? They have to do a better job of just winning themselves. And on the fade ball to Gallup, Dak's got to put that ball in a better spot as well. It's a little underthrown. It was look, if Baltimore can lose to Indianapolis,
right,
and Jacksonville can lose to Houston, the Cardinals can lose to Arizona. That's the NFL, I guess.
Hey, you and Dak getting along yesterday?
Yeah, did you cause this interception?
Was that your fault?
That was not my fault. I think it was his first regular season interception, though, and over what's my quick math here? And 130 throws. So
okay.
Keep that pace up and it'll be okay.
He is Todd Archer. He joins us every Monday with the insight. Check his stuff right now at ESPN.com.